Welcome to Title Talk, a podcast for real estate investors where we cover tips, tricks, and trends in the industry.
This podcast is all about providing valuable insights to help you maximize your investment opportunities.
Whether you're a seasoned pro or just getting started, Title Talk is the place to stay in the know and get inspired.
So grab your headphones, tune in, and let's talk title.
Hi! Look who we've got here, Mr. Pace Morby.
Celebrities in the house today.
Dina Jones. Welcome to Title Talk, folks. Number 27. We actually have a live studio audience.
Title
with us
Talk
today.
first today.
Come on over here, guys, and show everybody who's out here.
Come back here.
Come back here.
Come, right here.
Oh, wow.
Don't
Check
be
it out.
shy.
Bobby's moving the... Oh, wow.
Look at this group. Who traveled the furthest to get here?
It might be Holland.
Massachusetts.
Holland. I heard Holland.
Yeah.
Cyril came from Holland.
Cyril Cox came from Holland. Brittany came from Beaverland. She came from
it was Canada.
And then who else is who's farthest away? Where's Massachusetts? Mass over here. Where else? New York City. Greenville, South Carolina, where they love wholesalers.
Here's a question.
Jordan, hello.
Does Fidelity do title work in all of those areas?
Yes.
Amazing.
They're in all 50 states.
Yes.
Is there anywhere in the United States that Fidelity or
Puerto Rico?
Puerto Rico.
I don't think we do title in Puerto Rico.
That's because that's not a state.
Also, they don't have title in Puerto Rico.
I'm like, don't they have some other weird closing thing?
Yeah,
Like
you
a
have to
different
send a
process?
bird and
Yeah.
it drops off
A
an envelope.
messenger.
Yeah,
No, it's a messenger iguana.
I like it.
Yeah. They what they do is they attach the deed to the back of the iguana, and then they whisper to the iguana where it's supposed to go, and then it finds its way to the place.
You have to say, "I want to close this deal."
Iguana.
Iguana. We have wait, is that Jessica Wilkinson? You have a fan.
Oh,
Whoa. They're like, who's that? Guys, we're going to get into some fun conversations because we got the creative finance goat with us today. Gonna get into some nitty gritty title sitchies, but we've also got a great friend of ours joining us from the world of insurance. How do you say? Is it insurance or is it insurance?
I don't know, but we're gonna make insurance sexy today, guys.
insurance is sexy. Just FYI, somebody in this group this morning, we flew in a Black Hawk helicopter. Somebody in this group right here called their insurance provider and said, "Am I covered if I jump in?"
Did you really call?
So insurance is very important, especially when you have children, right? And you're jumping into a helicopter that was made for military services.
Wow, that is
Well, that's
really paranoid. But I'm sure your wife and children appreciate it. They're like, you know what? He thinks about us all the time, even when he's having fun. Amazing.
Our guest was actually in the military. He was in the Air Force for 20 years and earned himself about 25 medals, including the Bronze Star. So
Whoa.
I bet he knows if a Black Hawk is insurable.
Well, let's hear some war stories from our friend Chris.
You guys can go sit down.
All right. Well, thank
We
you
will be-
guys. Thank you
We
so
will be
much,
pulling you
Dina.
up to do Q&A in a little while.
Jamil, of course, we all love you. Mr. Pace, nice to meet you. And Jamil has had a great opportunity to hang out with your sister on Monday, checking out one of the pads that was under construction. So
Amazing.
yeah, it was a good time.
I hear you're creating a brand new product for co-living.
Yeah, that's what we're doing, because essentially you guys are taking it to a 7-7, which is ingenious and essentially early innovator stuff. We're pretty excited about that. So we walked it down to find a solution specific to essentially for you folks and also Fidelity. Again, we're looking for always a solution to any problem statements, especially insurance, because why? Insurance is sexy. Whoop, whoop. So
told you guys,
insurance
we're gonna
is
make it
sexy.
sexy.
Insurance is very sexy if you own the insurance company.
yeah, well, you're absolutely correct. Renewals pay a lot more than just child support payments. Woohoo!
I love it. So I've got a lot of questions in regards to the co-living situation with insurance because it's, of course, it's a completely different model for
Correct.
renters insurance. And typically when you get renters insurance, we don't like when one tenant moves in, it's like one tenant goes and gets their rental insurance, and that would be one policy, but it would cover the entire contents of the house. And so it gets a little muddy if you've got 7 different families or 7 different occupants with their own belongings in a house. So how do you delineate how that kind of payout, or who would be responsible for what? Like how do you guys wrap your head around the moving parts and the complexity of a situation like that? Or do you create a product that insures room by room, or what's the process with that for you guys?
The short, sexy answer is yes, yes, and yes. Yeah. So all kidding aside, you look at liability from not only a property perspective, the physical location, foundation, and then you also look at insurance from a general liability perspective, right? So ideally, the humans and their contents can cause a lot of risk, and then also collateral damage. So essentially, if I'm blow drying whatever hair I have left in one room, and there's a malfunction in my hair dryer, what have you, starts that room on fire, then essentially that spreads to the next room. Insurance is very unique to whereas that one room can actually cover the other 2 rooms. So in insurance, generally, you look at, like for your case, especially with your program, we're looking at different things and different mixes to whereas we can throw an umbrella policy. And as we start to add locations, essentially we just upload the locations and then they have the same coverages on the actual policy itself. Then we can subrogate down to actual per door. So there's what people don't know about. Let me get really sexy about insurance. What they don't know about it is, have you guys ever heard of insurance driving revenue?
Really sexy.
It's really sexy. But Jamil, I'm gonna blow your mind real quick. Can you make sure his seat is stable? Because
Yep.
Seatbelt on.
Have you ever heard of insurance driving revenue before?
Insurance driving revenue?
Absolutely.
I have not. No, tell me all about how it drives revenue.
We have the product. So one of our partners themselves, essentially it's a by-door product, which essentially is called tenant legal liability. And with that, it essentially covers the door or the room. And then on that room itself, folks that own the actual relationship with the policy and essentially the carrier that's creating the product, they can actually drive revenue with that product by simultaneously buying down risk to the master policy. So in insurance, it's all about balancing risk, right, based on location, so on and so forth, and then the risk itself. And then with your type of setup, we're looking to create one, if we can get a go on it, to where essentially we also have an opportunity to drive revenues. So it's just not only saving money, but driving revenues.
For the insurance.
Exactly.
Right.
So mechanistically, it's lined up as a line item. And I know I talked to Raheem a little bit at length, and we don't have the exact answer yet, but we have a good handle on how we're going to do it. But it's the insured is the door, right? But if the master policy covers those doors on an additional line item that's a pass-through cost, then that extra line item actually drives revenue so long as essentially
It's like me selling my insurance on a wrap. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like,
Well, that's
Speaking your language right now.
one of the things that I wanted you to talk to him about today was because Pace has an army of 30,000 people across the United States who are all doing creative finance deals.
perfect.
All of them need new insurance when they are taking over a house subject to, or if they take over or they create a wrap mortgage on a house, or if they're doing any kind of creative finance deal. And you always get new insurance when you take over a house, right?
Correct.
And everybody in the community gets new insurance when they take over a house.
Correct.
So Pace Morby needs to have his own insurance company, Chris.
yeah, Chris, what's up?
We can make that. Well, ironically enough, and I think we talked about this before, Jamil, is we also have a program that people can own their own insurance agency, and we do all of the setups,
Whoa, where you
appointments
been,
with
man?
carriers.
I was
I've been hiding.
I was
I've been hiding
waiting.
him.
I was waiting to unveil this right for this moment for you, Pace.
You know what's so cool about Chris, though? Like, people 6 months ago were saying it's illegal to insure a pad split, right? And we had this conversation, and you're like, I'm going to figure this out.
Yeah, we figure it out.
You're the dude that I need to hang out with. The people that are like, oh, everybody else is,
Saying no. Yeah.
saying no. I want to hang out with the dude that's like, let's figure it out.
Hey, so long as Jamil, Rahima, and Dean are okay with it, because you know what I'm saying, we're pretty close. If you're close with them, you're close with me. So
That's my dog. Yep.
Okay.
So yeah, it's actually a really important thing with respect to creative finance and closing as well, because they need to have insurance. Otherwise, the lenders start to get antsy because they want to make sure that their property is insured.
But also on every real estate transaction.
Every real estate transaction.
You have a different insurance.
Yeah.
You go
Correct.
to a burst strategy, you do different insurance. So sometimes a lot of real estate investors will change their policy twice in 1 year based on, hey, it's currently a flip. I'm flipping it. I'm not going to insure it as a long-term rental yet. I'm going to refinance it and I'm going to get a new policy, right? Or switch it out or what have you. Man, insurance, dude. I need to own my own insurance.
Yeah, 100% do.
What would we call it?
We would call it
Poutine insurance.
Creative insurance.
creative poutine.
Creative poutine.
Yeah.
Okay, so another fun creative thing that Chris has figured out a solution for. So we do work with some, big investors that have a lot of deals that pass through their portfolio every month. They don't want to pay on every individual property necessarily on closing. Sometimes they just want to pay on like, what do I still have at the end of the month? And they found a product for that.
Like an umbrella policy.
No, it's more. Will you explain how you figured that one out?
It's like a little sister policy.
So actually, Jamil, you're correct. So it's like an umbrella policy, but essentially based on how we operate on the back end, we are able to siphon in and out properties so long as the risk of the assumed versus what we're pushing off isn't upsetting the balance on the back end. So with that being said, an umbrella
Like for like.
What's that?
It's got to be like for like. If I'm swapping one out, it's got to be pretty much the same value as the one I'm bringing in.
Yeah, and if there's any small differentiation, there's also ways to expedite that process. Our whole goal set, especially at Garzella Group, and again, I'll explain a little bit more about Garzella Group and stuff. That's a pretty cool story beyond the fact that my military stuff. Again, thank you, Dina, by the way, for embarrassing me. I love it. But with that being said, there's ways that when you're working with a good broker, you prove them, you try to prove them wrong with a problem statement they can't solve, right? Well, we operate differently. We look at opportunities like that and we're like, okay, well, give us the opportunity, give us the truth, and then let us figure it out. So just like that, it's either a swap out or essentially it's also constantly updating what's called your SOVs, right? The SOVs will dictate what's the total liability.
Hey, you were talking about SOBs up in this?
SOVs,
This is title talk, y'all.
How we insuring this SOB?
I don't know. Yeah, it's statement of values, essentially. It's like, what is the total replacement cost on things? What is the total liability? We deal with some of the big guys on the back end. We have direct relationship, AIG, Lloyd's of London, BlackRock. They actually back our one standalone commercial product, which is called Avalon, which essentially in the last 3 years, we're about 14 billion TIV, total insured value, and over 900 properties in three years. That's how fast it's growing. So when it comes to the commercial side, personal line side, which is home and auto, we do it all. We love working with big problems, and we love the solution statement because it's a big win for everybody. So,
okay, so let's talk about something that nobody is happy about with insurance companies.
Inflation. Yep.
Let's talk about Florida. Let's talk about Texas. Let's talk about these coastal cities.
Yes.
Let's talk about this other crap that's going on. What's going on with insurance?
All right. So insurance
is this legit, or are we getting pinched by these insurance juggernauts?
Well, the way that I guess the plain language way to explain it, right, is we got hit with a lot of damage by way of natural disaster. Okay. Insurance doesn't roll where if an incident happens, it doesn't automatically affect your rate. So rates are what's called stated rates, with all the carriers per state have to create their stated rates. Okay. Now they're bound to that rate. Now, with all those different storms coming in,
how long are they bound to it? Just out of curiosity.
Once a year, so they have to restate them every year. So, if all those claims hit at one time, guess what happens to the total cost to the folks that are counting the monies in the back end? Right? They're like, "Wow, we're taking a huge hit, a huge loss." Who do you think is affected by that? The consumer. So on average, as of today, average increase so far has been 32%. Now, that's the bad news. The good news is just let's say Dina's been with Farmers forever, right? And she's like, oh, I just have to accept this increase in rate. Doesn't work that way. There's so many different carriers, especially insurtech carriers that are regional, state, will only do a couple portions of risk. And essentially at Garzella Group, that's what we do is we look at those things and essentially we go to the back end and we can buy down that potential increase by shifting and then changing the insurance to another carrier that best suits your risk. So even
I just assumed it was like storm chasers causing these issues, right? These door knockers, these people that are out there teaching people how to door knock and go, hey, let's make a claim on your roof. It's like, bro, the roof is just fine.
Can we be plain language real quick?
Of course.
It's uglier than that, man.
Tell me what's going on, because I see these young kids out there knocking on doors, like trying to get insurance claims. I'm like, y'all are just a bunch of pieces of SOBs. Y'all are a bunch of SOBs up in this.
That is also naturally inflating, because remember, it's the dollar at the end of the day on the reinsurers, right? Reinsurers are the big billionaire. That's where the buck stops. Like I mentioned earlier, our commercial products is with the buck stop guys. But essentially, every time somebody goes around, does that, fools the homeowner all the way from auto to home. The minute they try to take advantage of the total cost, like, oh, don't worry about it, just your deductible. They're affecting two people. They're affecting the insured when they go to renew. They may get dropped, and they're also affecting the insurance market holistically. So all those things are factors. I mean, I've seen YouTube videos where they have adjusters say, make a lot of money. The more money the actual, the cost is, the more money you make. That is horrible if you think about it, because essentially it's forcing people to push the actual cost up naturally by way of making dollars today, but it's affecting everybody else.
Yeah, it's I have a buddy that teaches door knocking, and he runs a big door knocking seminar every year. And he said the number one sector that has grown in door knocking is roof and storm damage. Mm-hmm. And these young kids are out there, they don't care. They don't own their own houses. They don't understand insurance.
They don't even have insurance.
They don't have insurance. They're well, 18 to 23-year-old kids working the summer and going, how can I make 150 grand as fast as possible? And they're duping homeowners into saying, even though a homeowner might have some dents on their shingles or whatever else, like, you need a whole new roof. We can beat up the insurance company. We can get you a new roof.
And then they overestimate it so that the deductible is folded into the fee.
There you go.
100%.
And now it's like, I can get this entire roof done for you with no deductible out of your pocket. Now, typically a roof in the United States that's an asphalt shingle roof on a 1,700 square foot house, about $10,000 bucks. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden you look at the price of the invoice on that and it's $25,000. Mm-hmm. So not only did they juice the fee, they're making an absorbent amount of money on the profit, but they're also inflating it so that the deductible is folded in. And then they do this whole like switcheroo, like you just pay the deductible and then we'll give it back. Is that fraud?
It is not. It's not legal because essentially what they're doing is they're surreptitiously. That's a good military word for you guys. If you guys want to borrow that, you can. They're surreptitiously inflating the market, and then they're essentially bait and switching with the consumers is unaware of what's going on. All that stuff are a collateral. And to use the term, we talked about weather, but that's the perfect storm of what would be considered unethical and immoral business practices, in some cases illegal. Now, remember, guys, insurance isn't. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And remember, I'll quiz you guys. Which states is insurance federally regulated? What states?
None.
100%. Private industry. So guess what? There's not really any oversight from the government either. So you have a lot of institutions that they're laboring. I mean, we had State Farm. Was it State Farm? Yeah, State Farm. I think it was about 4 months ago. They had to cut 3,200 people. Right? So essentially those jobs going. So it's not only just affecting the client, it's affecting the corporation and the businesses. It's affecting people. So we believe in ethical insurance business practices. More people are aware. They may think that they're getting a new roof, as Jamil was explaining. Problem is once that deductible hits, they go to renew. Guess what? They get dropped. Now they have to pay a large amount of money just to get reinsured. And once they go, and then how it's going to affect their mortgage too, it's affecting everybody. So we just hope folks that are going forward in life understand, that there's no quick buck, right? In life, especially you can't leverage insurance. What we like to say is insurance is not a bank, people. It's in need, and especially what insurance is put in place for essentially emergencies, any incidents or accidents that happen.
Well, and one of the other things that I think you guys have done that's super cool, which is also solving a today problem, right, is people are having a really hard time with today's interest rates affording their mortgage. And one of the resources that you guys have built has been a great thing for lenders. So you want to talk about lowermydti.com?
Yeah, thank you so much, Dina. Yeah, we
Lowermydti.com.
absolutely.
So,
I'll put it in the chat too.
Debt to income ratio.
Yep.
Lower my debt to income ratio. This is
yeah.
This is interesting. All right, dang. Why didn't I get that domain? That's a good.
Oh
domain.
yeah, we've owned it for about 7 years.
Well,
So-
you can buy it off him, I guess.
I know. Well, good luck prying it from Dan's hands. He loves the fact that he got to it first ahead of this. He was an early innovator on figuring out that technology, what we got in the back end. So lowermydta.com essentially is just that, right? So if his folks are going to buy a house, like we worked with some of the biggest banks, I'll remain nameless. I don't know what the rules are on here. Some of the biggest banks in the U.S. use us directly. I've
We
got
love them
badges.
all. Don't worry.
Oh, perfect.
Except
So
for
I don't
Paige.
like any of the banks. They can kiss my grits. They
That's
can
how
kiss my poutine.
That's how my uncle was like, Chris, don't trust bankers. I'm like, okay, whatever. So with that being said, we can actually use and leverage insurance to lower essentially the amount of the total. So when it gets to Dina and title, if they're looking at that DTI that's wavering, we can actually work with the client, higher essentially the deductible, really look at their policy to shave it down to make sure that they meet the RCE, which is replacement cost estimator, and everything that we need to get them into homes. We work with our people. We're not a turnkey solution to whereas, well, we can't help you or we're not going to do anything. No, we work with every individual. We're agnostic to size. We work with very expensive policies all the way down to the folks that are looking to walk their dog or, Ms. Pace, if you want to insure your hat, we'll figure it out.
Yes. Okay. Why do you think that insurance is not a bank? What about the infinite bank people out there?
Yeah. What about all those jabronis?
Yeah, well, insurance, what I mean by that is if people are using that to essentially leverage their deductible, work any side deals with their contractor to get monies back, essentially leveraging their insurance to find monies, all it's going to do is hurt what's called their insurance score. Just like your credit score, everybody has an insurance score. So be careful who you marry, because check their credit score and their insurance score, because it could be a lot of money.
Do they have that in Canada?
No.
Is that why they want you to like have the apps that follow you around and know like your fitness schedule, your sleep schedule, and all the things?
Well, I don't know. I think that's more the health side.
I think they just want to sell you stuff.
Yeah, it's just like the movie The Circle. I don't know if you guys ever seen that. It's pretty creepy. If you haven't, that's
great
homework
movie,
for everybody tonight. But
How
yeah,
do you
it's
check your insurance score?
How do you what?
How do you check it?
Yeah.
Your
How do I?
insurance
What is there like? Is it like a?
You have to go to lowermydti.com.
well, actually, you can by way of there. Right now, the portal's open just for bankers and realtors. Right now, we're about to open the consumer. but-
Realtors? You give
Yeah.
realtors power?
That's not a good idea.
Well, I'll just keep going.
Okay, so these guys just
Just
came
kidding.
off of like a crazy, amazing event that they threw in Florida called Squad Up Summit. Do you do event insurance?
Yeah, absolutely. We do Invent Insurance. We built special products for Invent Insurance.
Like, could you insure our event if it didn't make money? Like we spent 3.7 million on the event and we only sold $2 million in tickets. So would that insurance have covered that gap?
Well, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole because essentially it's leveraging and kind of going against what we talked about earlier. So,
Oh, okay, dang it. Okay, got it.
yeah. So, but yeah, it's a very interesting world. A lot. Again, this is what we do over here. That's why I love working with Dina. Jamil and everything. Everybody that we work with, they realize that number one, it's not unapproachable in respects to a solution set. We just have to understand the problem statement. We can do big, large, everything. But more importantly, again, we look at a win-win strategy. It's got to be win for the partner, ourselves, and also the client, most important. So we take a different approach to business.
How do we get this insurance company up and going? What's the next step?
I'm gonna set you up.
We want to bring this to the owners club.
Yeah. So Pace and I have an incredible new group of people that we're working with. They're actually becoming our business partners in different ventures across multiple different sectors. And one of those sectors that we wanted to attack was insurance, but we hadn't really quite found the solution. And I hadn't put two and two together in my head yet until just this moment.
Your sister has.
And I think this would be a great product for us to bring to our owners club, for Pace and I to get this company started and then bring this company to our people to share with us, because we've got thousands and thousands and thousands of people across the country that would then use this insurance company specifically for all of their deals.
And Fidelity would force all of their clients to use our insurance only nationwide.
Hey, that's up to you and Dean if she can force it.
Hey, I know what we're gonna call it. We'll call it Nationwide.
Nationwide.
Yeah. Hold on, I got a jingle. Nationwide is on your side. I got it. That's what we'll do.
Jimmy will be like, how about National Safety Co-wide? Perfect.
Yeah, I like that.
This is great.
You guys
Owners
got to
Club
drop in the
Insurance?
chat if
Oh,
you
let's go.
have any good suggestions on what they should call this new insurance company.
Standard Insurance.
Owners insurance.
Owners Insurance.
Oh yeah. Well, I would like to check also with Rahima too, because
Yeah,
she's always creative with good stuff,
Routine
especially when it comes to Nate. So,
So
but yeah,
what about, to Pace's question though, like insurance is sky high in Florida, some other states. Like, what do people do to lower that? What does that look like? Do you
Burn
have
your
any
houses
tips?
down.
not move to Florida. Self-insured. I'm joking with you. So we work with actually a state-supported carrier in Florida specifically. Unfortunately,
State supported means that they are more localized, not as national. Therefore, they're not as sensitive to things going on in Florida.
State supported means that it's the state actually runs the program or helps fund the program, but then has specific carriers local to Florida. The underwriting process is, sometimes 2 weeks long, so it's not a point and click, unfortunately. A lot of the companies have pulled out. I mean, they pulled up carpet in certain areas. They quit writing, even to the big carriers. We found solutions in there, but it's just a longer sales, process, and a longer sales cycle for insurance. So, like with mortgage, especially when somebody's buying a house, time is of the essence, 30 days, right? So a lot of these things, if they don't get up in the front, right when the house is accepted and the mortgage essentially is going to escrow, they run the risk of not getting the insurance by way of that. If you live in Florida, that's different. If you're domiciled in Florida, then you get full access to whatever's there. But again, the rates are still high based on what I was explaining earlier. These folks are in the world of making money, right? And part of that is, insurance is ran by what's called a loss ratio. Loss ratio dictates a lot of the appetite on the back end for the carriers. That means that out of $100, if they're losing anything more than $30 out of $100 specific to an area, they start to shut up shop. So they have the rights to basically not only drop you, but they can pull up and they can actually not write anything. They have no obligation to give you insurance.
Wow. So I've got a question. Let's just say you've got, you have a spouse, right? And you get an insurance policy on your spouse. How long,
to like insure.
well,
that
like
you won't get divorced?
like life insurance, right? So how long do you have to wait before that person dies for you to be able to get that policy without it looking fishy?
I'm going to leave that one
I'm
alone,
going to be
man.
asking about divorce-proof insurance. You went down a totally different rabbit hole.
Wait. No. I asked that as a lead to what are some of the indicators that something fishy is going on your guys' policies, right? Like, how do you guys determine something ain't right here?
Well, I will look for the name Jamil, and then we'll go from there.
Wow. Okay.
I'm joking. No, we have to take, that's where the insurance score comes in, right? That's the checks and balances based on previous claims history. Edifying people's risk for insurance, use the insurance score, essentially credit score. They do a soft credit score.
Wait, my credit score affects how much I pay for premiums?
Oh, well, yeah, because they want to make sure you're paying your premiums, right? So all those things are affected.
No idea.
Yeah. And all that stuff costs money on the back end to do the polls. But a lot of it is we just have to, this is the unfortunate thing about insurance, right? We run the risk of insuring, and then that book of business is monitored by each carrier. So case in point, on the PERS line side, we have 35 active carriers nationally, all 50 states, okay? And then on the commercial side, we got 60 carriers, and then our own product plus E&S, right, which is excess lines. So we have to balance as a broker who we write as well. We got to be very careful. So with that being said, on the PERS line side, we can give you a policy today, and within essentially a week and a half, you can make a huge claim on whatever you're doing. Well, in the investigation aspects, this is where fraud comes in. This is why they have the adjusters come out, and they basically look at the opportunity, look at what it was, and do a bit of investigation. Anything that's considered fire, they lock everything down, and the fire department has to come and investigate. If you're caught with fraud, then they start the fire, and they basically start the fraud process. And you don't want to get caught doing insurance fraud. Huge fines and jail time.
So the whole your wife's dead situation.
Yeah.
How do they investigate that?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not. So we don't do life. Unfortunately yet. We're actually looking, and we're entertaining ones to bring on. But again, from my experience, unfortunately, I had my mom pass away at 54. We had a small policy on her. Well, she had stage 4 cancer, and we got to get too far into that. But she lived a great life. But one of those things is all they needed was a death certificate, and they didn't ask any questions and paid it out. But her condition was different, right? So when it comes to a question for like some really in-depth life folks to answer, we don't really cover life as of right now.
Got it.
Okay.
Here's a question. Why would somebody go through a broker to get insurance rather than just go directly to a carrier?
How many cars you got, Pace?
7.
Okay. How many different cars?
Lots of different cars.
Why didn't you buy the same car 7 times?
Because one gets good gas mileage, the other one doesn't, and it sounds great.
Oh, perfect. I can't
Well,
wait.
I have trucks that do like different things and cars that do different things,
One
right?
that keeps your wife safe.
One that keeps my wife and kids safe. I drive my Prius around when kids are not with me so I can zip around. I got a 15 passenger van so I can take 15 people with us. We got all sorts of different utilities, right?
So you have multiple options on what you wanted to buy based on what you needed it for, correct? That's why you work with a broker. Because ideally, a single carrier is only going to give you the product that they have. We have access to all their products, so we can differentiate based on price, coverage, what the limitations are with respects to how you want to insure what you want to insure. And most importantly of all, we advocate for the client, not the carrier, if that makes sense. So we're an advocate for the client.
So you'll compare 2 different carriers. If they both provide the same coverage on the same product, same term, all that kind of stuff, you will find which one is least expensive for the best product on my behalf.
Cover and price, absolutely on your behalf. So we have raters in the back end that are technically connected to our system, so we can run that. So, and then if we come back, we're going to come back to you and say, listen, here are your options. Let's find more ways to save you a bit of, some cash. Are you a student? All these different discounts that we can look for based on each carrier. Each carrier has its own discounts that they will allow. So let's go back to what Dean asked earlier about tracking your mileage, and they have the plug-in with Progressive, right? All they're doing is finding ways on risky driving, right? So they're basically analyzing your behavior, and then they have their own risk matrix in the back to say, okay, we're going to adjust your premium because you're a really awesome driver, right? So when it comes back to brokers, if you have multiple options, and also those options, the insurance broker on behind it is pushing for you, then you're not stuck with like what we talked about earlier. When your insurance goes up, State Farm agent said, this is the best I can do for you. You're going to get satisfied. But then you're like, hold on a second. I know Chris, and I know he's got all these different options. I'm going to go over there, and he's going to work for me. And guess how much it costs you to work with a broker?
Hopefully no additional cost compared to me going directly to the resource.
Zero.
Okay, so you're like a buyer's agent.
Yeah, absolutely. We're basically
The seller pays for you.
Yeah.
Until July 1st.
Until July 1st.
Until July 1st. Yeah.
Okay. I like that.
Are insurance rates negotiable? Like, let's just say, for instance, I ask you for a policy and you come back and you're like, okay, it's going to be $150 a month. And I'm like, I'll give you 110.
Then you better find the other 40 or we have to find you another carrier.
Okay. So there's
Change coverage. I mean, do you give somebody like less coverage if that's the fact?
You can increase the deductible. That actually naturally drops your premium. Okay. There's different factors. Yeah, there's different factors related to the questions that we can ask you in order to also get the reality of your situation, so we can find those discounts and try to essentially naturally drop the price. That's how you negotiate. There you go. Get the guns up. But with that being said, these are the
policy right here, baby.
Actually, it's funny is this, I got insurance, lowermydti.com on this sleeved up, dog. So we're good.
Can we check my insurance score right now?
We can't check it right now. I can check it when we're offline and essentially just put it in and the folks will work your policy.
What if I want everybody to know what my insurance score
let's
is?
make it public.
Oh, we can do, not right now though, but we can.
He's like, we can, but not right
That
now.
means he's going to make a comment with that information.
Oh, he doesn't, because you don't want to get in trouble.
Oh no, it's not about getting in trouble. I'm the guy that fortunately knows Dina and Jamil. Yeah, the brokers do that.
Got it. You're Phil Jackson. You got a Scottie Pippen and Michael Jordan that make it happen.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I met Phil Jackson actually in Manhattan Beach before, so
I could tell.
This guy. Yeah,
I could tell. You got a zen about you.
Well, that's the sunlight coming in.
Bobby, what do you think your insurance score is, bro? Like, how do we rate these things?
I don't know. Insurance might be really good versus credit, which is pretty shit.
Well, no, then your insurance score would be pretty crap because your credit is crap.
Is your insurance score like an A+, a C-? Is it
a number?
A number.
Yeah.
Is it based off of like getting
Or do you
tickets?
get like an emoji?
The easy way to look at it is, I know,
His Bob's poop emoji.
Pile of brown mound, like the cool emoji. So the best way to do is if you had any claims in the last couple years, there's a certain cycle where it cycles out depending on which carrier that it increases, right? So if you've had claims, your insurance score will go down. If you haven't had claims, guess what? You're in a good spot. It's not too complicated, but there's a lot more complicated
tickets. I get at least 2 speeding tickets a year. Does that impact my insurance score?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
My insurance guy was like, dude, I need you to not get a ticket for like 4 years. I was like, bro, do people really go 4 years without a ticket? And he's like, I have like 90% of my clients have never gotten a ticket. I'm like, bro, stop lying to me right now.
Really?
You get
I
tickets?
think I've been taking like at least 10 years.
Come on.
I haven't had a ticket in a minute, but the last ticket I got was pretty bad, and I had umbrella insurance on me in my life, and I guess my ticket was so bad that I got kicked out of my umbrella insurance.
Oh yeah, they'll again. I got dropped because my wife's Audi was driven by her friend, got in a fender bender, went to an undisclosed place down here in Chandler, and $8,000 later, then they gave me a notice, 60, and it was just a fender. That's it. Crazy.
Dino, tell me what's Sunny's. I don't know that. I've never heard of that.
Oh, it's not Sunny's. It's it remain nameless. We're not going back there.
Okay,
So-
what's the weirdest insurance claim you've ever like seen or heard of?
Wow.
Wackiest, weirdest.
Would you insure a BMX rider?
Well, absolutely. We'll insure anybody. It's just, are they willing to pay the premium?
Would you like to advertise on a BMX podcast?
Would we like to advertise? We can
Do you
advertise.
do you guys do like injury insurance? Like, would I legitimately recommend this to BMX friends? Like, do you have a product that would cover like injuries?
Like
if I'm
falling
out?
in a manhole?
Like if you do
Yeah.
pop a wheelie and then you pop your brain open, is that insurable? And could he insure that?
As long as you're using Odyssey brakes, if you're a BMX guy, you know what those are.
Yeah.
So you're welcome. I know
Okay,
that. I
great.
used to have a Gary Littlejohn, and what was my last? It was Free Agent was my last bike I had back in the day. So I used to ride too. But
Bobby rides for Huffy, so he don't. He's got one of them foam bars for the.
Fun fact: I've never ridden a bike.
Oh,
She's
wow.
also never
Are
eaten
you
a
lying
hamburger.
right now?
Nope.
She's also never eaten a hamburger before.
You've never eaten a hamburger. You've never been to In-N-Out and just enjoyed your life.
No.
Wow.
You've never
I've
sat
had a
there in
grilled
In-N-Out
cheese.
and it had a bite and then go, this
I've
is
had a
why
grilled
God put
cheese
me
at
on this
In-N-Out.
planet. Are you serious?
Serious.
Are you not a meat eater?
Serious? Not a meat.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Okay,
That
so
makes me so sad.
one
for
of our
you.
fun questions we ask our guests on this show is tell me something that's super normal that other people do but you've never done, like me and the bike thing.
Oh, wow. Dina, I've lived in like
Somebody just
I don't
says,
know how
"I'll
many
pray for her."
countries. I've been to the mountains of Afghanistan to Iraq. I've done a lot of crazy things. What have I not done that is an interesting fact related to stuff? Oh, I'm incapable apparently of having boys. I've got 3 girls.
Three girls.
Bro, there's a position you have to do. I'll teach it to you.
There it is.
I'll send you an emoji. It'll teach you everything you need to know.
Hey, bro, I used to be on the ground in combat situations, so I love a good joke.
Didn't it rhyme with soggy style?
Title talk.
Title talk.
So apparently,
You're
that's
gonna
my
make me
interesting
sure
thing
I got
because I apparently can't make boys, but I mean, I can make beautiful girls though. They're amazing. So
That's a good fact.
Well, I really do want to know what the craziest claim you've ever had was. Like, I came home and my house pig, stepped on something and burnt my house down.
I'm trying to rack my brain because we have.
I know people with house
we
pigs,
talked about it, like dead
Yeah.
bodies on the show.
house pig.
And
like a house pig,
like a micro pig.
Yeah. Actually, I know somebody who thought they bought a micro pig, and it wasn't a micro pig. It turned into a full ass hog. And they kept it, so they got this big stinky ass hog in their house. Hi, Elena. No, that's who I'm talking to. Who has the big? Yeah. She has a big ass hog in her house. Yeah.
Yeah, Dina, you're stumping me on that one. I mean, we get a lot of interesting cases, but the biggest, I mean, going back to the fraud stuff, a lot of the stuff we get, where they will randomly create an opportunity to redo an interior of a house for a leak, right? And it's okay, like you don't realize, but you just inflated your insurance costs for the next 5 years by getting a new floor or a wall. So yeah. So it gets a little interesting.
Damn. Okay. So fraud is happening all the time. It hurts everybody. You guys do your best to investigate, but at some point you're like looking at the person and you're like, I know you're lying, but you have to do what you got to do and pay the claim at some point. If there's no evidence that they're lying.
Yep. The insurance, the carriers, again, we're a broker. So we carry the sales on the front end, advocate for the client, and the carriers have to pay. It's a bindable agreement and contract. Unless they can find any evidence of fraud, they won't pay out. But then that happens, then you get another person visiting you, which is Johnny Law. So we don't want that.
Wow. Dina has also never changed a diaper, apparently.
What?
Are you serious?
Well, Jordan put that in the comments, but he is looking for a hospital that's going to let us change baby diapers as a charity event.
Oh, so can I go opposite of that? You guys were talking about Blackhawks, right? So Dean, you're absolutely correct. I've flown over Lake Mead in a Black Hawk when we were doing stuff, but the coolest thing, if you like helicopters, I've actually flown in a Russian Mi-17 across Afghanistan, going as fast as it can go. And I'm still alive here. And I was thinking in my head, I'm like, if I go down, I'm hanging outside actually I have pictures too. I'm hanging outside the door, and I'm like, if I go down, at least it's a cool story. But that actually was in Afghanistan, and that's actually happened. And those were scary because the blades.
What's Jamil's I've never done question or answer?
What have I never done?
Yeah,
I've never jumped out of a plane. I've never slept on a plane.
What?
I don't sleep
I've
on.
never
You
slept on a
meditate.
I meditate. I meditate, but I don't sleep. Yeah, I've never slept on a plane.
Never slept on a plane either.
I've smoked on a plane.
I've seen you do that.
That's awesome.
Vaping.
Yeah, I've smoked on a plane before. I actually just did. No, a vape. Yeah, I do it in the bathroom and then I just blow it into my shirt and then nobody knows what I did.
I've got one that might not be that shocking. You know me pretty well. I've never drank coffee.
What?
Yep. I've never had coffee.
Wow.
I've never had
Don't
any.
like this now.
I grew up Mormon, and coffee's a faux pas for us. And then when I got older and I was like, I'm going to live my life, I was like, why would I start now?
Right. So you just went to Monster.
Yeah. Never
It's
had
the
coffee.
lifeblood.
What else? That's an interesting one, huh? I change a lot of diapers.
Yes.
This morning, I changed a great diaper. It was surprising. That was great.
Was it so?
It's one of those ones where you're like, whoa.
Was it
you
so
slept
bad
in
you
this.
wish you had insurance?
Yeah, basically.
So, Chris, I want to know how the current real estate climate with high rates, inventory where it's at, how has that affected the insurance industry? You writing more policies, less policies? Like what's happened to the insurance?
Way less.
Oh.
Unless people are refinancing, it's halted a lot of the insurance industry. Specific, like we're a broker, right? We've been very fortunate with the amount of volume we get from our partners. We've got a lot of big partners, but we're also agnostic. We got little tiny 1 to 2 person broker, shops, and we still do all their policies for their insurance. But just to give you an idea, 2 years ago at this time, we were doing our highest broker was doing about 100 quotes a month. Okay. So right now we're receiving lead flow at about a 20 to 25% rate of where we're usually normally at 100% rate. So it's that slow, just like if the real estate market is affected by way of the mortgage, then we are the small little, turd at the end of the punch bowl that essentially also is affected. So it does.
That's the first time I've ever heard somebody from insurance refer to themselves as turds.
It kind of makes sense.
But listen, insurance is necessary. We all need it.
100%.
It's valuable when you need to have an insurance policy and something happens. Having insurance is absolutely incredible.
When should I self-insure? Because I have 2,000 units in my portfolio, and I effing hate paying for insurance.
Well, you should own the insurance company that insures all 2,000 doors, so that you have a better situation in your business right now. So that's why you've got to get this figured out right away.
Do you ever deal with captive insurance? 2 questions. 1, self-insured. When should somebody like me self-insure and say, F all y'all? And when do I start contemplating captive insurance as well as a tax strategy? Or
who's going to hold you captive?
Puerto Rico.
Oh.
Yeah. So first off, self-insured. So self-insured is self-insurance, right? And self-insured personal retention, right? So you're retaining the cash for the RC, which is replacement cost estimator or total replacement cost of whatever your assets are, right? So if you really look at that, you're gambling. If you want to gamble, then you can self-insure. If, of course, if you have a mortgage, you always have to. It's a requirement by the actual mortgages and the lenders, even VCs, any type of capital groups, they may require it, even if it's private funding. So, but again, it's risky depending on what your portfolio looks like. If you got 2,000 doors and you decided just to self-insure, you have one catastrophic event happen in multiple locations, you're going to go underwater really quick because essentially you don't have the insurance to replace that loss.
Okay. Got it.
I think the answer to your question was
Never.
You're going to get this figured out.
Yeah, we're going to buy an insurance.
Yeah. We're going to get that. We're going to get cooking with you here in the next couple of days.
I love it. We're ready.
I've been reading some articles, Chris, in different publications about some insurance companies having some financial difficulties because of all of the claims and all of the natural disasters that have been happening all over the place. How do you know you're working with a solvent insurance company that is not going to be at risk of potentially blowing up? Say, for instance, there's a big natural disaster and this one company is heavily invested in that one market. How do you make sure that you're getting coverage from a solvent company that is not going to go belly up in the middle of a situation like that?
All right. So, do you guys know what cedent means?
That's a Canadian thing for money.
I gotta know my audience better. So, all carriers are ceding a certain amount of total loss, but they're also backed by those billionaire banks on the back end, right? So Lloyd's of London's, the AIGs, where the buck stops with insurance. When that contract is in place, they cannot take on more risk, total loss risk, than they can pay out. So when they pay their portion of, which is essentially as much as they can pay holistically on total losses, then the big banks on the back end kick in to make them whole. That's the only way insurance can work. So if you have a carrier that's essentially, let's say they're not connected to a back end bank, and let's say they're ceding to 20% or 30% of total loss, in order to operate, they have to have a backer. They can't do it essentially on their own unless they have enough money to totally cover all, which remember I said earlier, TIV, total insured value. They have to have that in the bank or bonded or something in order to essentially insure you. If they can't, they cannot go and contract with you.
So essentially the risk level is zero then. So if the insurance company writes the policy and it's a legal policy, then I'm guaranteed to be covered either by that insurance company, and if it goes under, then whoever issued the bond.
So I'm going to also tell you the scapegoat answer. And the scapegoat answer, so the answer is yes, right? But the scapegoat answer too is because it's a privatized industry, there could be an isolated case where, let's say that catastrophic event happens, and again, they exceeded because they outsold how much risk they can take on. When they outsell how much risk they can take on to get the dollars up front, you could be in some serious trouble. There's other times where there's been companies that, based on the oversell and too many claims, they had to go under. So the reinsurers had to come in and essentially make good, but then that carrier dissolves. So we have to then take everybody off that and then put them on another product.
Is that Christmas for you when that happens?
It depends. Well, it's Christmas, of course, because we're able to cover those clients and essentially we're protecting the people. That's where it makes it Christmas for us because we have an obligation to the client.
Good answer.
So
He's a good dude.
Yeah. But it also means a boatload of more business.
It depends, right? As a broker, just like anything, right? You work with a bank, you sell a loan for a bank, you get a percentage of the loan that you sold, right? Same thing with brokers. So it all depends on which carrier you're with. All of them fluctuate depending on how much monies the actual brokerage gets.
I wonder if you can save me money on insurance.
Can you save Pace money on insurance?
Absolutely, maybe. Let's look at your portfolio and let's look
Well,
at
I think the answer is probably absolutely yes if he's the owner of the insurance company that where his policy is.
Yeah, there you go. Then there's the answer.
I have a family office that runs all my stuff, and Ryan Cox, you guys saw Ryan Cox today. He spent a year fighting and lowering my insurance by 50% across the board. But I also was talking to Grant Cardone and Ryan Secco, who runs his multifamily portfolio, and they said, "Oh man, we found the best insurance guy. He was the cheapest. He was the this, that, and the other." And then everybody else's insurance went up last year. Guess how much he saved last year by switching to a different broker?
How much?
$7 million.
Whoa!
Yeah, he's like, dude, we flew around, we met with people. We were like, there's no way that our insurance is going up. We have this many properties. Like, somebody's got to take care of us. So they went and found somebody, and he's like, we were sure that we had the best guy, the cheapest guy, and it never hurts to get somebody to look at your policy.
Yeah, what we need to do is start our own insurance company, go call Ryan Secco and say, hey, let us give you a quote.
Yeah, that's true. That is very true.
Well, yeah, because you work with us, we create your own insurance company, which essentially is insurance services agency. Then guess what? You get access to all of our carriers and all of our products and all of our money revenue generating products on the commercial side as well. So all these things we're in the business to do business, but we do it essentially right. So we think about the partner as much as we think about ourselves as what we think about the client. So we don't sit there and say, all right, Mr. Pace, I saved you like $7 million, but if they found a policy that, let's say the policy is $1 million and you're paying $7 million and $6 million of that is a broker fee, guess what happened? They didn't really truly save you that money. There's also the broker fee involved on the commercial side that you got to be very careful of. Because is there any regulations on broker fee? Yes or no?
No.
Nope. It's all on the trust of the broker. And if they're not transparent with you, they can get you comfortable, and before you know it, you're paying a broker fee on another product that they found, but you naturally look at it and say, okay, that's great. And, you know, all of a sudden your broker fee is double the price of your insurance.
Mm. All right. You got my business. We'll have you look at our stuff.
But we're close to wrapping, but we have some questions that we typically ask people that show up here. And one of those is, what's the last thing you Googled in your phone, Chris?
This is a family show, right? I'm joking. Let me actually
family
look
show.
real quick.
But we've talked about some interesting topics today.
Oh, funny thing is, you know what it is? And Dina knows about this because I'm actually engaged. We're almost at the finish line of opening a drug and alcohol rehabilitation center.
Oh, congrats, dude. That's
For
awesome.
veterans.
Yeah, 60.
It's
We're
called
looking
what?
at 60 bed and take care of
Oh,
veterans,
wow.
first responders, nurses, and it's specifically to that category. That's probably one of the most underserved categories when it comes to acute care, specific to what the trauma that we used to go through. Because we'll get offline with all the stories, but it goes through a lot. So last thing I actually Googled is SBA loans. So that's the last thing I Googled.
I like
We're looking for our final $1 million right now. We have 1 seat left. So and that's an equity partner. So
You got some private money lenders in the side chat I know about, and legit you do. What are you reading right now?
Ironically enough, I reread with somebody the other day that, again, not to get, I'm a sober guy, by the way, just throw it out there. So I always look for folks to get sober too. So last thing I read is with this guy was, what was it? Not The Body Tells the Truth. I think that's what it was. Either that or the Addicted Mind, I think it was. It's just basically the relationship between the body and the mind and understanding that relationship. So I'm a nerd.
Is it the body keeps the score?
Body keeps the score. Yep.
Got it.
Yep.
That's great.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
my friend. Best advice that you've ever been given that you want to share with our audience today. It could be insurance related. It could just be family related. It could be anything.
I'll hit you guys. It's funny. One of the best advices I could ever give anybody, and this is I think the best advice I was ever given, is never give up truly on knowing your authentic value to anything. First off, starting with yourself, then others. So always know your value.
I love that.
Me too.
How fun is this?
You're valuable. You're valuable.
This today we got a live studio audience. We got Pace Morby in the house.
Come on out here, guys. Let's send everybody off. We'll have a big loud send off here. Here, yeah. Come on down.
Thank you so much for being here with us, Chris. I think
Absolutely.
everybody got a ton of value from.
We got a
getting
ton
to
of
know
value.
you.
Yep, you're awesome. And this was Title Talk, episode 27. Dina Jones, Jamil Damji.
Pace Morby.
Did you know that you can poutine a poutine? What was it?
You can donate a poutine.
Donera poutine.
You can donate a poutine.
I love
I guess. And with that, we out.
On the
Later.
count of 3,
Oh, hold
everyone
on.
has to say poutine. 1, 2, 3.
Poutine!
Yay.